Ooh, good day, mate. Hope you're doing well. Hopefully the gym seems like everyone is pretty happy to head back into gym this week, and by the looks of it, it seems like the trend sort of is continuing where by the end of the year we're moving into whatever yellow, orange, whatever that is. So it does look like it's only going to be an uphill, well, not necessarily an uphill, but an upward trend from here on out. And I'm sure um, all your clients and NSBB members are just roaring to be able to get back in the gym and train. I'm sure the environment is good, and I can see that you guys are also hosting like what AUSPA does with their sort of like Wednesday night trainings, the AUT Wednesday night training. So that's awesome, man. Really, really cool to see North Shore Barbell being involved, or more so than anything being the main point of powerlifting on the North Shore. And of course, having a very, very strong affiliation with AUT, I think, just helps with that. So yeah, I think next year will be a good year for North Shore Barbell Men, at least from the way I see it. Hopefully, I know that you mentioned last week you will be taking some time off for Christmas as well. So yeah, hopefully, yourself and the family and everyone else will have some good time off, and just take some time to uncoil and unwind going into the new year. So I've got a couple notes here. I will actually talk about training first, and then I'll move on into some other notes that I've made as well. So training last week was good. As you can see on my left calf there's a little bit of ink going on. One of the notes I made was I did not realize how much I actually rely on my sleeves, not for strength, but actually on how much I rely on it to hit depth. And you'll see here in this 150 where I basically buried the fuck out of it, because like I didn't know where depth was, and then I came up and I was like, whoa, I really like buried that, and I didn't realize that I was actually quite reliant on sleeves to tell me where depth was. So interesting. Which moved all right. And I think I made a little bit of adjustments here with the back off. So yeah, this was the deload week, which was last week anyway. It was 3 sessions last week, so it wasn't too bad overall. So bad camera angle here, but another note to make here as well, pec is starting to feel a little bit better. I generally like high volume training, man, like at least for like upper body stuff. It does feel I tend to not necessarily respond, but my body tends to be able to cope better with volume training for upper body and not be able to cope with volume training for lower body when it comes to strength. When it comes to hypertrophy, obviously, like, more volume is always good, like, for that matter. But in terms of, like, if I were sort of like to look at raw strength, it seems like my upper body is able to tolerate a lot more volume or at least like the peak strength does seem to correlate with higher volume, whereas with lower body work, it does look like I kind of, like what you're doing here anyway, tend to work better with a lower volume block, I guess, for strength. So interesting. I actually will skip ahead because I, for some reason, did not put the squat here. I ended up putting it right at the back, I believe. Oh no, I remember what happened. So with the squat, I did not actually film the 160. I attached the VBT, the velocity based trainer, but I didn't actually film my 160, which was weird. But regardless, obviously the velocities on there, was very, very pleased. It was probably one of the first times I've actually hit 160 at that velocity with that speed in a very, very long time. Maybe at least in the last couple blocks. So I was pretty happy with that. I think that deload definitely did help. But I think more importantly as well, with the fact that I'm starting to add on a bit of weight, not a lot, I'm sitting around 61.1. It might be contributing. It is also interesting to know that I'm starting to switch up my nutrition a little bit, where I'm trying to prioritize having some carbohydrates before the meal. But that, just to kind of keep you in the loop, like prioritize having carbohydrates before the meal, before the training session, but keeping foods outside of my training sessions relatively high fat. It does seem to help. So yeah, just some interesting findings there, man. So yeah, on and on. 145 for force, pretty happy. This particular day I did not attach the VBT to this backup set because it was really low in battery, and that's a good reminder for me to charge it after recording this. But yeah, overall, not too much to kind of talk about. 105 for 1 was 105 for 1 at RP8. It also, funnily enough, I was looking back at, like, there's always that not necessarily standard, but like a gold reference point of like single at 8 in powerlifting. And it, for some reason, I think just based on the data we've been collecting so far, it feels like my single at 8 for bench is always slower than my single at 8 for squat and deadlift. It looks like my deadlift's usually, my lower body is like generally about like 0.26 to 0.27, whereas my single at 8 for bench seems to hover around like 0.2 to 0.22-ish, which is interesting. I think that's kind of like where I will be sort of like gauging my single at 8 speeds. Don't know if you would agree with that, but it does look like, based off the trend, based on all the tracking that we've done on the on the progress log so far, it does look like that is where we're heading. Man, convention was rough, man. Holy shit, I didn't realize how long I've not done these in a while. I love them though, like, but I haven't done these in so long. So I was like, fucking hell, they're not as easy as stiff leg deadlifts, let's put it that way. But I was pretty happy I got through them with relative ease anyway. Yeah, so I was pretty happy that last rep that definitely took a little bit out of me. And 80 for 8 here with the tag bench. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I don't really have too much to say except for like just working through, just getting the work done and just enjoying training as a whole. So I'll leave it there. So a couple of notes here, and this is just sort of like reflecting upon what I actually talked about last week in regards to competing next year. And then you kind of told me like potentially North Island's being in Wellington. And then I didn't necessarily let this dwell on me too much, but I just had a couple of train of thoughts. So I guess my first question for you here is more of a personal question, is that I'm just really keen to hear your thoughts personally about you competing. Like, I know obviously yourself being a coach, you're probably going to be super busy doing those competition, like during in season anyway. So obviously competing is just going to take something out of you. Barring injuries aside, which you obviously have suffered quite a bit last year from my memory, what are your thoughts personally about competing, man? Is there, I guess, what are some reasons for you wanting to compete or not to compete? And the only reason why I asked that question, and if you can pick up on my nuance, is that upon reflection, I don't know if I'm actually interested in competing next year. And I'll be very, very honest, I'm not too sure. And I did make a note here as well, it's not necessarily moving away from powerlifting training. If anything, I just want to keep training, to be honest. But I feel like I don't want to have the pressure, or I guess it's ironic because everyone says, I have a goal, but it's like I don't want to necessarily have this goal to compete to ruin my love or passion for training, if that makes sense. So I guess, yeah, so I'll be keen to hear your personal thoughts on like, why don't you compete? Of course, if it's like an admin thing, completely understandable, and injuries, yeah, why would you? But aside from that, like, I know the year prior to last year, so 2020, I recall you might have competed at, oh no, that was the one that we had in Auckland, I believe. I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure like there were a lot of comps that we had conversations where like you were going to compete and then in the end you just decided not to. So just personal thoughts on that. Main reason why I'm asking that is because upon reflection, I am teetering on the idea of not competing next year, not because of not enjoying powerlifting, but more so I don't want the, not necessarily pressure, because I'm not pressured to compete, but I don't want the added stress of needing to compete to deter me away from my love from training, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'm kind of teetering on the idea, and so keen to hear your thoughts. I would love to continue this conversation further, man, because I know that the most important thing from where I stand as well is like, if I decide not to do it, I don't necessarily want to waste your time going into next year to help me prep for comp, either like just prep for no comp or potentially just move to like a monthly or maybe just take a pause on coaching in general. I don't know. But yeah, I'm just keen to hear your thoughts on that, man. So I'll leave that there. Hopefully all is well. Be keen to hear your personal suggestions and yeah, keep me in the loop, man.